What if I told you that attacks on U.S. infrastructure may already be in the books? What if I told you that bombs may be pre-planted right now on key infrastructure items, specifically dams, and that dams are actually one of the most dangerous things to be attacked in the United States or anywhere? Well, my friends, we've already found the evidence. Yes, a bomb has been discovered at the Converse Reservoir in Mobile, Alabama. And in fact, they found this and by just a routine maintenance inspection. This wasn't intended. They had no clue. They weren't looking for it. They just found it. And they did explode it. It turned out it was a grenade-sized IED. Maybe this was a dry run, a practice run. Could a grenade-sized IED take out a dam? Probably not the concrete structure itself, but maybe the floodgates, maybe some other critical piece of it. But that doesn't mean that bigger explosives couldn't be planted. We do know in World War II that our aircraft used to practice these bombs that we would toss in behind dams. They were basically spinning drums. They spun them so they would go down and from the air could be launched and go down and come in and spin and come in to the back of the dam at the concrete side and detonate. Now, some size of a 55-gallon barrel, which we do know that there are ammonium nitrates in the United States and other things that could be obtained agriculture that could create explosive devices of that order. You could destroy dams if you planned this with the right explosives. And an IED would be the perfect detonator. Now, who was it that specialized in developing IEDs? None other than Iran under General Soleimani, who Trump took out during his first term because we lost a lot of American lives due to IEDs that they supplied both to Iraq and to Afghanistan. A lot of American lives were lost to IEDs. So an IED is it's a remotely initiated explosive device. It's an improvised electronic explosive device. Improvised explosive device is what the acronym actually stands for, but they're remotely detonated. They could have timers on them. But the reason they did remote back in those days was so they could explode it when a vehicle was passing at whatever time they chose. So it could work either way. Uh, these things could have timers or be remotely detonated. So why would they do? Why dam? Well, what the articles about this focused on was the potential for lives lost due to loss of drinking water. The Converse Reservoir is the source of drinking water for the city of Mobile. That's it. A lot of other cities have similar arrangements. So, but you're not just talking about loss of drinking water. You're talking about a lot of other potential losses if you start destroying dams. Worse yet, if you start destroying upstream dams, you could have flooding events in smaller dams. If you destroy them first and time it right, you have a huge flood wave coming in to downstream dams. Look at the Tennessee River and many other river systems that have dams that go all the way from way up in the mountains in Tennessee, all the way down through Alabama, even in the flatter areas. These dams, can they withstand a huge surge of flood water? If nothing else, the flood water might go over the top, but likely it would take out the dam. Now, if you time that with improvised explosive devices that you could remotely detonate when you see the wave arrive, then you've compounded the effect and you don't need as much explosive to just take out the downstream dams, which tend to be a lot larger. Just imagine, say, in the Tennessee River, if you were taking out these upstream dams and you took out Lake Gunnersville, Wheeler Lake, with the dams there. The downstream flooding would go all the way to New Orleans. Much destruction. Everything along the riverways, just take Tennessee River, for example. You got nuclear power plants on most of these rivers. You would have a Fukushima type event because you would wash out the generators again, like the flood that hit backup generators, like the flood that hit Fukushima. You'd have nuclear disasters. You would lose bridges. You'd lose power lines. And then there's all those people live downstream of the dams. This would be catastrophic beyond imagination because you would lose so many power plants, because so many large power lines also cross these rivers and dams, and roads often cross them. You would sever the infrastructure in the United States and would actually probably cause a power grid failure in and of itself. Not to mention, there's a lot of transformers along the ways of these dams. It would be extremely disruptive. The effect would be, it's most people can't even imagine what it would really mean to all these people downstream. So this is a real threat. Loss of drinking water is just the one they talk about. They're not telling you about the rest of it. But I've done that. I did a video 2 years ago. I'll show it to you in a little bit. So you can go back and watch that video where I go into more detail about that. Natural events could also take out dams. A lot of dams are getting old, which also makes them more susceptible to being taken out. It's one of the reasons the Three Gorges Dam is probably targeted by Taiwan should there be a war between Taiwan and China. I don't know if they get anything explosive enough to take out that giant dam, but if they use the American techniques and some cruise missiles, they might could do it. If they had nukes, oh yeah. Oh yeah. As far as we know, Taiwan doesn't have nukes. Now, if the United States got in that war and launched a few nukes on the end of a tomahawk, yeah. Or if we just serendipitously supplied them to Taiwan once the war broke out, hey, I don't know. So, or fire them from a submarine. Might be more likely, but the Three Gorges Dam getting taken out would be a huge impact on China. But what you've got to worry about yourself is, do you live downstream for such a dam? Does your power, does your drinking water come from the reservoir? Your power come from power stations that are along those rivers, like the Tennessee Valley Authority gets almost all their power from either the dams and primarily, principally, nuclear power plants right on the edge of the river. Like Brown's Ferry, Watts Bar. There's several of them up and down the Tennessee River, which could expect some level of damage in such an event. How much flooding would you get? Depends on how many upstream dams are taken out and the flooding downstream. And then what happens when you lose the reservoir that these power plants need for cooling? Nobody talks about that. Why? You only hear it here. Why? It's because of the grave threat posed by such devices. Now, the scary thing is we've already found one. And we didn't find it by intention looking. And as far as I know, nobody's running around right now and checking all these other dams. But there's other things that could be targeted too. There's lots of other critical infrastructure in this country. If we found already an IED at one dam, what else may be out there? Why are we not looking actively, inspecting? That's what needs to happen. Maybe you need to call your Congress critters, your local utility authorities, and say, guys, you better get out there and inspect these dams. Put some divers down there, look around. And maybe it should be a regular routine procedure to inspect these things periodically to ensure there's nothing out there. But what do you need to do? You need to be prepared. If you live downstream from one of those dams, you need to be able to figure out how to get out in a hurry because you may get no warning. None. Do you really want to live there? If you might want to be choosing a place to move to, you might want to reconsider moving or living in such an area. You may want to move out. That's a good candidate. Just sell your place and go because those dams may fail eventually anyway. It's natural events could cause these dams to fail. A lot of other things. This is just the pressure of the water bottom. They hold back a lot of pressure. That's one of the things that makes it a little, even though they're huge concrete edifices, they hold a lot of pressure, which makes them vulnerable. Now, you add to that by either an overwash from upstream dam flooding or explosive devices or a combination thereof, you could have a very serious problem. As I said, you may have no warning. At least when you got a lot of rain, you kind of know you might need to be on your wares. But this would just happen out of the blue. Boom, 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 boom. Now, if you're hearing of events upstream, dams blowing up upstream, you might have a little warning time to be able to get out. That's why you got to watch the news and be careful. Now, if I hear of such a thing, I'm going to come online live. If I hear of such events, I'm going to bring it to you straight up. So, because that's one of the things I watch for. That's one of the things I'm in tune with. That's one of the things that I worry about the most. So, my friends, be prepared in case this happens. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things real fast. I want to show you, but first, before I do show you these articles, I'm just going to show you my sponsor, me. A word from my sponsor. Guys, you may be aware, and I've covered this in many videos, that a lot of these consumer products, almost all of them, are loaded with chemicals these days. chemicals and heavy metals and other contaminants that are not good for you at all. They're bad for you. And the reason for that, now it's been amplified worse than ever, is that over 550 different consumer brands are now owned by just 12 companies. And these companies put the bottom line before your health because they've determined that they can actually, it's cheaper to pay out lawsuits and settle out of court whenever possible than it is to provide you good product in the first place. Scary thing, but it's the cold, hard truth. And to make it even worse, these companies are largely controlled by just three big asset management companies, principally BlackRock, well, Larry Fink in charge. You might know about Larry Fink. And every time you buy this stuff, you're voting to support those big major corporations and these major corporations and even the World Economic Forum. If you love that, you don't want to buy their products. So, my friends, I've come up with a way out of that is to switch out, switch away, switch with Greg. If you come to this website, you will discover that we have a family-owned company that makes non-toxic products that don't have all that mess in it. They're extensively tested for consumer safety, and it's all made in America. In fact, you're supporting American families, American jobs, and you're getting away from that wheel of control, that wheel of contamination. So it's a good thing. There's some articles in here about what you support when you buy their junk, all the contamination and things in it. So check it out, switchwithgreg.com. All you got to do is fill out this form here, hit enter. This is my website. The data only goes to me and the lady who's helping me to onboard you into this great opportunity. Now let's look at this IED stuff. Here we are. There were several articles on this and many different sources. IED near Alabama reservoir detonated after officials warn of unprecedented critical infrastructure threat. I don't make this stuff up, guys. This is real. It happened. We found it. 350,000 residents in Mobile were at risk of losing their drinking water as the lowest possible risk. And it could have got worse, guys. It could have got worse. What happens in major cities suddenly have no water to drink? Where do the people go? What do they do? And if it happens in one city, sure, a lot of other people will be chiming in and bringing in bottled water. What happens if it happens across the United States? How do you deal with that? It just gets to be too much to deal with. So here's a picture of them down there getting this thing out down at the Converse Reservoir, the divers that found it, and then they exploded it. So the Converse Dam and the Converse Reservoir and its dam are federally designated critical infrastructure. The dam is classified as a high hazard potential, according to the Association of Dam Safety Officials. The high hazard designation means the structure failure will probably cause the loss of human life. They're not talking about just how bad the flooding could be downstream. That is probably your first effect of loss of life. Loss of water would not help that situation, especially if it happens at many different reservoirs. Again, here's another article in a local news source talking about the same thing. The U.S. Coast Regional Marine Response and Render Safe team retrieved and detonated the FBI was involved, the Mobile County Sheriff's Office, the Mobile Police Department Explosive Ordnance Detail, and the ALEA, which is the Alabama Organization Bomb Squad, and the Daphne Search and Rescue Team. That's a Daphne Island. So a lot of people got involved with this once they saw it. This made some news nationally, but people just don't recognize what this could mean on a national scale. That's why I bring this to you, my friends, because I talked about this over 2 years ago. Dam dangers, U.S. and abroad. Nuke plants too. So here it is, guys. I brought this to you. I've mentioned it. I've talked about it like nobody else. And indeed, we find the threat is real. So here I was warning about potential sleeper cells targeting these dams. They're easy targets, guys. There's lots of them. They're everywhere, easy to target. And now we have already found an IED at one of these dam sites. Not a pretty picture. So given all that, my friends, I really highly encourage you to pay attention to this. And I bring you news like nobody else. I bring you analysis that nobody else brings you. So please subscribe, bang the bell, and click all. This platform likes to not show people who are subscribed my notifications because I talk about topics that they don't want heard. So that's all the more reason to come back and recheck to see what I posted and to make sure you're subscribed to my channel. But help me out, share my videos. And all I want to say is get yourself prepared, get ready, because we're coming in some testy times. It was probably inevitable this was going to occur, the kind of things that's going on. So, and my friends, I do some analysis covering my angle on that too. So you want to check out a lot of my geopolitical topics, and please, mainly, get yourself ready. Be prepared. With that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. There's another video right here. Please watch that, and Greg out.